Hello, you delicious snacks. Welcome delicious back. My name's Jack and my god, it's finally happened. Come across a story that's caused me to have sympathy for landlords. Look, it's not a secret that as a consistent tenant, also pursuing the performing arts as a career, I am not at all educated on the life and stress that is having to manage personal property while tenanting out to random people. Nonetheless, I'm sure you or someone you know have shared some negative experiences with lazy landlord responsibilities. But while today we are diving into a bunch of entitled people, this first story with a homeowner going through a loss of a loved one, ending up with him being homeless. Oh, I hope you're ready to get your blood boiling. You see, it all began in r/housing UK back in March this year, with the OP experiencing a lodger refusing to leave, drawing up a fake rental contract saying they have a right to stay in the home for a year. Now, to an ignorant renter such as myself, you'd think, hey, just call the police. Surely there's a legality issue here. Oh, they do. They get the police and the law involved, and it is disgusting how it ends.
I took in a lodger 4 months ago on a rolling month-to-month contract to help with the cost of living. They have begun treating me like a slave, so I put my foot down and told them they have 6 weeks to move out. But he has stated that this will not be happening, and sent a message to the WhatsApp group of a fake contract he has made that has my signature on it. He has told me that any attempt to move him out will mean trouble for me, but he hasn't put this in writing. So far, my wife's ashes have gone missing, only for him to announce that he found the urn, and it would be a shame if it got lost permanently. I really need help.
What an upstanding gentleman. Now, obviously, with the threatening of one's loved one's ashes, it's clear to point out this person is trying to blackmail you. And in some more positive news as well, turns out you don't even need to give them a 6-week notice, as long as it's a reasonable notice, minimum being 24 hours to 1 week. But hell, if they're being a threat to you or your property's safety, which I mean, let's be real, he kind of is, yeah, you can get them to leave immediately. Of course, suggesting to get the police involved. Understandably. And getting this response from the OP to, again, just further cement how much this ledger is a total a-hole.
Thank you. I'll file a report while I'm out walking my dog. He deliberately left some dark chocolate on a kitchen counter this afternoon and said, "Oops, maybe I wouldn't be so clumsy if I didn't have you threatening to evict me." My dog is a renowned counter surfer.
Yes, I will be honest. There is a part of me too that wonders how respectful or friendly the homeowner here is being that causes this person to behave like this, but let's be real. Threatening to steal a loved one's ashes and threatening to kill their dog. You kind of lost all my support there, Ledger. Is this older person, like, farting on you in your sleep or something? The OP made some more responses before we get to the update.
I was charging $350 a month, basically to cover my wife's share of the mortgage. He was fine at the start. It just grew worse and worse. The heating stays at 24 degrees. I said it freaking stays at 24. You're out of milk. Get some on your lunch break. You need to clean the freaking bathroom. My dog needs a walk.
And in case you're wondering why this man lets this ledger just walk all over him, does he seem threatening? Is there maybe some slight xenophobia going on? What's up? Well, turns out he's massive. 6'6" easily and built like a brick house. Doesn't help that I'm an East Asian male and we are not so big. So this guy is absolutely trying to take advantage of that intimidation factor. And a quick side note before moving forward. The OP does let us know that they have the ashes now. They took them and his wife's jewelry, etc., and gave them to a neighbor they trust. So a sigh of relief for that moment. But now we come over to the first update that was just a month later in April. OP seemingly not being able to log into their previous account, but wanting to give an update regardless. After visiting legal advice in the meanwhile, they've attempted to do the following. Summarizing it all up. Step 1, filing a police report and informing them when you will be making this person leave. Learning great. Immediate notice is reasonable in this scenario. 3, with a witness present, deliver this in writing that they need to be leaving the place. Make sure that witness is there to verify anything. Maybe have them on a phone just to make sure they can record everything and maybe stay with you for a few days for safety. Also, pre-arrange for a locksmith to come and, while keeping a witness there as well, do a full lock change and make sure that bolts are all working, etc. Get some security cameras installed, maybe a Google Nest. And yes, again, have some family members or a witness stay around for a few nights just to make sure he doesn't come back. So it seems rather bulletproof, right? They're completely in the right here. They have all the, well, right to exercise this this eviction. Let's see what the police do about this.
I went to the police station on the evening of my first post. I explained what was going on, that I had a lodger who was refusing to leave and pretending that he was an actual tenant. Police agreed to return with me that evening for the eviction, but I had to wait close to 4 hours in the station. Whenever the officers arrived at my house, the lodger opened the front door and spoke with the officers. He presented them with the fake contract, stating that he was renting this place, that I was the landlord, and that I was attempting an illegal eviction. At this point, the police informed me that they didn't have enough evidence to make a decision on what amounted to a civil matter. I tried to enter my property, but the lodger stopped me and said I was trespassing, as a landlord legally has to give 24 hours notice if they wish to enter. The police sided with the lodger and informed me I would have to find alternative accommodation.
I mean, really? Come on, get the frick out of here. I didn't realize it was so easy to fool police.
I ended up having to stay in a dog-friendly B&B for a full week while I spoke with my homeowner's insurance and my bank. I also tried to escalate with the police, but they refused to get involved in a civil matter. Upon returning to my property after a couple of days, I discovered my keys no longer work. So it appears the lodger has changed the locks. I'm now living for free with a friend from my church while my home insurance is working with a solicitor, and hopefully my bank, to apply more pressure to the police and take action against the lodger. Not a happy situation at present, I'm afraid.
I just want you to know that it takes a lot for me to say this, but I honestly want to remove tenancy rights just so this man can get some justice. At this point, I'm siding with anything landlords want to push through into the government out of just complete spite for this lodger. Screw the right to human shelter. Just kick this guy out. Understandably, this is just frustrating everyone in the comments. As they say, you're in the right here legally. But also, unfortunately, the law doesn't enforce itself. The police do that. And hey, since you legally own this property more than he ever would, you kind of still have the complete right and freedom to just bring a locksmith around and change all the locks. So, yeah, see how that plays out. But yes, it seems like there might be a bit of subtle racism going on here, maybe? Just with the homeowner here being of Chinese descent, it's possible that law enforcement and public officials aren't really treating them with much severity. Because just to give extra frustration towards the police in this story, someone responding as well being like, did you not show the police proof that you were paying the mortgage for this house, that like you live here, you own it, you're paying it off yourself? And apparently he did. He has a literal app and other details that show that it is his property. He's not just the landlord, he is the person residing in the property. But in some hopeful news, it sounds like the insurance company at least is actually on the OP's side, even calling every few days to check on their well-being. That is, I'm starting to think that maybe this person is in an alternate reality. It's something weird when an insurance company is human like that. But anyway, we move on to the second update. The final one, a lot more shorter, and unfortunately, equally as frustrating.
Sorry I have not been able to update earlier. The lodger has engaged in several dubious practices, which makes it hard for evictions to continue. This includes providing a fake name to me originally. So, eviction documents were served on him with the wrong name. He's also getting court hearings delayed by feigning illness, and he's even taking on his own lodgers and subtenants, a woman and young girl, and signing them up for a 1-year rental contract in my home. My insurance company and solicitor work on this matter. It's not easy, not going well. But thank you to local Chinese community and kind local people as well for their support. The end is in sight and I soon will be back in my home.
So yes, indeed a wonderful nightmare to be experiencing. Now there is some sound theories as to how this could be resolved. As someone brings up the whole issue of, okay, the lodger's proof that they had a contract and a lease picture on WhatsApp? Clearly the shadiest stuff they've ever seen in their life. Why wouldn't the police ask for actual paperwork? You know, how easy it is to doctor an image these days? Someone else jumping onto that the file itself would have information of when it was created, last opened, and last modified, etc. The homeowner could have showed these properties to the police via his computer, and it would have been obvious that the squatter had changed it all. Though to counter this, the police actually can't find someone guilty and decide they're lying. A court has to do do that. They would need better evidence to charge him with an actual crime. To which, okay, that's the police's limited use of power, but can't we agree that is kind of stupid? And this is where I'm actually like, okay, I understand why we have some things in place now that are purely for the homeowner's favor and not at all the tenants. They should side with the homeowner by default and let the guy sue him in court for wrongful conviction. I know there will be cases of abuse in regards to this, but it has to be that way. Otherwise, I could break into any home with a piece of paper saying that I live there and get the homeowner's name from public records, and the homeowner can't do anything about it. Look, I'm sure it's not that simple, but there's no way I could feel totally comfortable ever being a homeowner knowing there are people who would definitely achieve this. So what do you think then is the best course of action, or just how can you resolve this with the current laws and restrictions one has in evicting tenants? I am curious on either side of this argument. I don't know if anyone here watching my video are homeowners themselves who rent out, or are we all just fellow tenants in this world? If you're someone who is absolutely against landlords and how many of them just kind of leech and abuse their positions for financial gain over, the basic necessity of giving someone a place to live, let me know your thoughts on this, because I have always been someone against the idea of making rent a profit versus the property value itself being that the thing you profit off. But yeah, just experiencing this story has really made me understand why there is a lot of landlords that have a tendency to be a bit more of a stick up their butt than necessary. It's weird to say it, but they do have a bit of my sympathy. Now on over to another story with a quick update. Am I the a-hole for not telling my new partner about having a vasectomy? The last story was about trying to steal someone's livelihood. This one is kind of the same. Some background. I, 36 male, was married for 8 years and have 1 kid. After they were born, I got a vasectomy, which was 4 years ago because I am not interested in having more children. Well, I ended up getting divorced about 2 years ago. Started dating my recent ex, 33 female, little less than 9 months ago. Now, when we started dating and the kid conversation came up, I was very clear about not wanting any more children, and that will not change. I didn't bring up my vasectomy at that point, partly because I didn't think it mattered, and partly because I didn't think it was their business that early on. Now, fast forward to this week, she told me she was pregnant. At this point, I said the child is unlikely mine, and I will not have any involvement in this until a paternity test is done. My reasoning for this is she was supposedly on birth control, and I, in theory, should be sterile, so the odds seem pretty astronomical to me. This obviously turned into a fight. She accused me of being dishonest with her, which I guess is a lie of omission, isn't really being completely honest. So am I the a-hole for not disclosing my vasectomy earlier? Now, anyone with understanding about vasectomies would know that just like birth control, they're not actually foolproof. Sure, they rarely fail, but there are a fair amount of times where people's sperm count isn't completely zero. Also to note that it has been years between when OP got it done and when the girlfriend got pregnant, that even they personally are told by doctors to get checked yearly to make sure you actually haven't unintentionally reversed it yourself. So that's when the OP came back with this big old edit. So they're not ignorant about the whole sperm count issue themselves. They already are planning to retest themselves, however they do need to abstain for a few days, so they won't be able to really get the sample off until about mid next week. But on that note, they have regularly tested their vasectomy, so they are keeping track of their zero sperm count. And between getting it done and divorcing and finally dating again after divorcing 6 months, well, 6 months after the divorce, they started dating. God words. They were still showing up sterile, so they were very confident that nothing was going to happen. Now, notably, they do admit that they've been on the fence about the relationship for the last month or so, which does beg the question, was the girlfriend kind of picking up on that? Hell, even if the child is his, they don't actually plan on trying to keep the relationship going anyway. They'll just try to be a good co-parent. So he didn't exactly mean to suggest a strong idea that there was cheating going on, which, look, is a fair point, but also let's be real, it is kind of the exact method some people take when trying to baby trap someone. Now, he does admit at the end, though, that maybe he should have actually brought up the issue of him being sterile before sleeping with her. After all, she brought up her being on the IUD, so he thought, well, it doesn't matter about bringing up the vasectomies thing, so we're clearly both having the intention of practicing safe birth control. But what do you think in that moment? Does that really make him an a-hole because he didn't immediately disclose to her that, hey, when we get intimate, I am not trying to have a kid every time we get intimate? I feel like that's kind of common sense when you're freshly dating someone. Hell, I think it's more of a red flag when you imply you do want to impregnate someone before 6 or even 9 months of dating. Could you imagine you're dating someone and part of the way of propositioning things going further is by implying that, hey, hello, my dearest love. I'm very interested in doing something that might physically debilitate you for the next 9 months. Doesn't that sound romantic and sexy? It just seems weird that he needs to assure their partner that I don't want to get you pregnant on the 3rd date. No one with any emotional maturity would want to do that. So anyway, Opie goes ahead and gets himself tested once more, comes back a week later in a personally amusing update. Well, this isn't much of an update, but thought I would provide since many were curious. Had my sperm count tested and it came back at 0, so not much doubt that I am in the clear. I had reached out a couple of times since the argument to discuss how she wants to do a paternity test and got nothing back. I have been blocked on any shared social media and have not talked to her since the argument. At this point, I don't see any need to reach out anymore and will wait and see if she tries to take me to court. If you listen closely, you can hear the sound radiating from the woman's phone as she reads his messages. Beautiful. Now, comment is quick to say, ha! Someone is mad she got caught cheating. But to be fair, she hasn't proven she's actually pregnant. For all we know, this was probably just a lie. Something to get him to maybe commit more after the last month where it seemed like he was beginning to detach from the relationship. But hey, it's kind of like the lesser of two evils. You want someone who's clearly trying to manipulate you or someone who's just a scummy cheater. Because either way, one feels like the only reason for her to be mad she didn't know he had a vasectomy was because she thought she could cheat and trap him with a baby. He said he didn't want kids. There really was no obligation for him to tell her he couldn't. It even brings up the other curiosity that, yeah, maybe she never actually had an IUD. She was just saying that to make him think that he was in the clear to not use any protection himself. Well, joke's on you. He was too paranoid to trust ya. See, kids? Sometimes your mental health issues can be a good thing. Hooray for being too scared to trust others. It just takes me to that place in argument of male birth control. That the only reason it isn't out there is because men wouldn't want to take it. Get the frick out of here. It's a literal stereotype that men run away from child responsibility. You think they're not going to jump at the opportunity to pop a little pill to stop them from having to worry about that kind of stuff? No man would be against the power to decide whether or not they have kids. Because yes, sure, vasectomies exist. They're a thing you can do, but it should be always kept in mind that they aren't always reversible, and the longer it was done ago, the less likely it is that the reversal can be successful. It is intended to be a permanent contraception. If one intends to have children in the future, vasectomy is a gamble. Of course, that being said, if you're someone who never wants to have kids, then, well, not having a vasectomy is the real gamble. But then there's also the argument, well, you can always just freeze the sperm, but then that's also just diving into the whole issue of IVF treatment, which is very expensive and also rough on the woman's body, so it's not really resolving the issue of birth control purely being a woman's issue to deal with. It's kind of, it's just throwing it back at them rather than trying to alleviate them of the constant struggle they're stuck on. Anyway, friends, we'll end it there. Thank you for listening to my rambles and dealing with my BS. I appreciate you very much for giving me your time, and until the next time, I love your face, and I'll see you then. Bye-bye.